Hello, this is Project Nigel and you're watching an experiment. I'm going to drive this Audi Estate diesel down the longest hill in England for fuel economy purposes. I'm going to first just drive it like you normally would do, not taking too much care of fuel economy, etc. And then I'm going to come back, stop here and start again, but this time do it in a proper economy mode. The reason I'm using this hill is because it is the longest hill in England and because it's local. I come up here all the time. Makes sense, doesn't it? Now, obviously, if you try to drive economically, you will get better miles per gallon. But I'm convinced that it will make a much bigger difference, even in this diesel, just by avoiding the brakes. Now, the engine is, of course, warmed up. And the moment I set off, I'm going to reset the miles per gallon. Get back here and then reset it again once I've actually seen what the result is. And then do the whole journey in as best economy as I possibly can. And if you're interested, I have a few tips for this. And go. It's a bit foggy, so I've got to be a bit careful as I turn out of here. Now, the only trouble is that with the fog means that I won't be able to drive quite as quickly as I normally would do until I get, and there's lots and lots of standing water as well. So in actual fact, I've probably chosen the wrong day to do this particular experiment, but we'll see how it goes. This car in front is driving exceedingly slow actually. Can I get past him? I mean, if it wasn't for the fog, I'd definitely be able to do quite easily, but I don't particularly want to crash the car just in the name of science. This is already going to ruin my experiment, because there's no way I would drive along here at 35 miles per hour. So, the things that take away your fuel economy. One is not driving at a particularly consistent speed. Dabbing your brakes. I see people do this all the time, try to maintain a speed, but they can't quite manage it because they're not thinking far enough ahead. So what they'll do is they'll go along and they'll thought, no, I'm going too fast, no, I'm not going fast enough, no, I'm going too fast. And then they're sort of constantly touching the brakes, and then of course every time you touch the brakes you're taking away your energy, and then you've got to put that energy back in. Well, there we go, I just got past it. I had to, really, it was just kind of going way too slow. And the thing is, this is much more like what you would do, which is to go along the road like this at maybe 60 miles per hour, and then when you see something you need to slow down for, that's exactly what you do. And that's what I'm expecting to happen any second. I have to slow down here because I can't quite see what's around the corner. Well, it's not that bad actually. I can see this van coming from quite a way off. Now, I am what I would call quite an enthusiastic driver. I love driving. Ever since I learned to drive, I love just being out and about, driving. When I started doing some trailering, that gave me a new sense of driving enjoyment because there was a challenge there. On the way down here, there's not really much excuse for not getting good fuel economy, because it is, although not a steep slope, a slope all the way. And that's why this particular road is used for the Tour de France training. It's true. And so far I've not remained in fifth gear all the way. I've gone down to fourth a couple of times. I think I overtook that car in fourth. So obviously, being a turbo diesel, you've got plenty of low down punch. And this one does. It's a jolly good overtaking car actually. And I overtook safely, and the car actually could see me coming and even slowed down a bit for me, which is jolly nice. Right, now we're entering Crag Vale, which is where the hill gets a bit steeper again. So this is where the fuel economy should go up. Now, even though I've been doing this quite enthusiastically, I am up to 64 miles per gallon, which is incredibly impressive. It would be more impressive if traction control that. Oh, I should slow down a bit actually. Having windows open for a start brings more air through, and I probably experiment with that a little bit more because of the fact that it's so wet. And I don't, even after that little right-footed episode, I'm still at 61 miles per gallon, so I'm quite impressed by that. Now I've got to actually slow down and stop now for a bin man. That'll do. Foot down a bit. It's actually really difficult to drive that badly. A little bit like I see some cars parked in supermarkets and they're just straddling the lines, and I just end up thinking, how do you do that unless you've done it deliberately? You can't do that kind of thing deliberately. Or you can't do that kind of thing by accident, because it's just not natural to not have some idea of where the back end of your car is. However, some manage it, and I find exactly the same kind of thing when it comes to driving down hills, braking. Now, what I've done there is coming down, I've deliberately braked just to kind of push it a little bit. So I've driven a bit faster than I normally would do, just so I've got an excuse to brake. But what I see all the time are people who drive with their foot on the brake, and it's just... Look, did you see that then? I just changed into third to reduce my speed. I'm just not very good at this. There, hard on brakes, put back down again, and then reaching a... now, where I'm going to stop and turn around is the on-screen factory, Royd's Ices, which is just here. And at the bottom of this hill, I can record 71 miles per gallon. Impressive, eh? 71 miles per gallon whilst driving badly. Now, on the way back up, traction control. Now, there's 30. Can't really go any faster than that just yet. And I'm already down to 67.8. This is where the fun begins. Not thinking about how much speed I need to maintain before I go to the next corner. So I'm just like sticking in third gear at the moment, into fourth, because, and that's already knocked it down to 62 miles per gallon, which is still a lot, but that's an awful lot of mileage scrubbed off straight away, isn't it? 60 miles per gallon, and I haven't actually done anything that irresponsible. Maybe the best way to do this experiment would be to just try it with somebody else driving. A fuel economy challenge. Temporary lights, that makes this challenge just a little bit more inconsistent, because on the way down they were green, on the way up red. Now hopefully when I go the other way back down again, I'll have exactly the same result to get exactly what I'm looking for. Whilst waiting here, we're down to 58.8 miles per gallon. Come on, lights, how long should this take? It's only one tiny bit of roadworks, thank you. The trouble is, acceleration, the feeling of acceleration is one that we all like, isn't it? When you're a passenger in somebody else's car and they're putting the foot down, then yeah, it's not so nice, is it? Because you fear for your life, don't you? If you're anything like me, being a passenger is not a nice experience. The brake going uphill, then that's something that should never happen. Down to 47 miles per gallon now. At 46 miles per gallon, that didn't take long. We haven't even gone to the fast bit yet. Now this part here shouldn't make too much difference on the actual fuel economy, especially if I use up all the road like that, because I'm just not really slowing down. I'm just approaching miles per hour. Oh, but here we go. There, I'm going to brake a bit. Brake, then foot straight back on the accelerator, because I was going too fast for what might be just around the corner. Standing water, that's something to avoid, and if you're driving in slightly erratic fashion, no, you can't really call this erratic. Careless driving. That makes it sound worse than it actually is. It's not really careless, it's just, I know, it's thoughtless driving. as we get back into the fog and nearing the end of the road, time to restart the experiment. Down to 43 miles per gallon, which actually isn't that bad, considering that I haven't really given any care to the way I have driven here. 42.8 miles to the gallon. Time to reset and go again. I've got to set up the window open because, quite simply, can't really see what I'm doing. This time I'm just tickling the throttle because it'll just pick up anyway. I'm down to 18 miles per gallon to start with, which is very, very low. 23 miles per gallon, not particularly great. Wouldn't this be amazing if it turns out that you use up more fuel by driving carefully than what you do when you don't? The challenge here is obviously to beat that 43.8 miles per gallon, but also to not even touch the brakes. I think that's perfectly reasonable. 37 miles per gallon. Other things to consider whilst trying to drive economically. Well, what about the heater blowers? The idea is that the heater blowers, the heat itself isn't really a problem, but the blowers use up electricity, and then the electricity has to be put back in the battery, meaning that the alternator has to work, well, it's worked harder, but it doesn't really make that much difference. Up ahead there is a van and a pickup, and I'm gradually catching them up. And with that in mind, there really isn't any point in touching the accelerator that much, because I don't really want to properly catch them up. I want to stay quite a way behind. Just touching the throttle ever so slightly to maintain my speed, and I'm up to 64 miles per gallon. 65 miles per gallon. Now to 78 miles per gallon, so obviously it's made a difference, even though it didn't feel like I could drive that bad before. That's the way to do it. 87 miles per gallon. Now here we go, because this van just suddenly jammed its brakes on, and I suspect it will be dabbing its brakes quite a lot as we go down here. Yeah, there we go, and it's slowed down. Well, there was a car just parked there, so unfortunately I've lost that part of the challenge. If I was alone coming down here, I could probably have managed that okay, because there's no need for the brakes there. There's no need, there's nothing coming the other way here. But there's a possibility of something just coming around the corner, but whilst there isn't, you don't really need to touch your brakes. It's slowed down an awful lot. That's unfortunate, really, because that's taken an awful lot of my momentum away, and I'm doing less than 20 miles per hour, which is bad for this particular challenge. However, I'm up to 102 miles per gallon, which is significantly more than what it was before. Still trying to keep a distance, because the bigger the distance I keep, the better control I have of the speed that I am going behind it. We're still under 25 miles per hour. I have reached 110 miles per gallon. Right, 111 now actually, in fact. So I'm quite happy with that. Ready for 120 miles per gallon. Yes, 50 more than what I managed before. Although I'm going to stop at the lights here, which again will give us slightly off reading. 121.3 miles per gallon I got to just there. And that's dropping down rather quickly whilst I sit idle, but I don't want to switch the engine off because it shouldn't really be here for that long. There we go, we're going again already. There. That lost me 10 miles per gallon. That's Right, I can see the ice cream factory just up ahead there now, and I've managed to get it back up to 125 miles per gallon just before I'm having to turn around. The difference is this time that Mercedes blocking the exit does make a slight difference on my result. Down to 120. Now coming down the hill's easy, because as long as you don't really change your speed, the brakes, and just try and maintain that speed and avoid using the throttle, you should just be able to get exceedingly good miles per gallon. Coming back up again, much more of a challenge, because for one thing, what gauge are you going? I'm doing 30 miles per hour here, and I think if I go into 5th gear, it will bog down slightly. So I'm sticking with 4th, because it doesn't want to, you don't really want to be labouring the engine. It's a much smoother drive back up, but we're already below 90 miles per gallon. However, we've done that whilst going uphill, and now I've misjudged that slightly. Misjudged that. That's terribly bad. Not because I'm having to stop the lights, but I didn't slow down a bit earlier. Just watching that Mini up ahead there that was using its brakes to go through this gap here. It's not even a small gap. I was hoping to get 60 miles per gallon on the return journey, but it's already looking quite a bit like that's unlikely to happen, because I'm down to 63.5 so far, which is a bit less than ideal. 59.8. Obviously these trip computers aren't flawless, and they will possibly give a slightly optimistic reading time to time, but this challenge is against itself, not against reality, so it doesn't really matter. Avoid the standing water if you can. There we have it, 55.5. I think that experiment might have been more significant than a 12 miles per... I gained, what, 11 miles per gallon doing that. And that doesn't sound that impressive. I think if this experiment was to be done again, but on congested roads, the results would be more significant. But I chose not to do that because of the inconsistencies involved as well. So the conclusion is, if you want better fuel economy, try to read the road ahead and avoid using the brakes. And when I say avoid using the brakes, I don't mean crash into things. I mean avoid the need to use the brakes. It is actually quite rare to need your brakes, provided you're changing down and looking ahead far enough. And with that, thank you very much for watching. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider being one. Thank you for liking, thank you for not pressing unlike, thank you for sharing, thank you for being a channel member. Channel members are 99 pence a month or more, should you fancy being a bit generous. Or more, should you fancy being a bit generous. Bye bye for now.